Have you ever felt that doing the right thing is not reasonable? Imagine you're working in a company that every employee except you is stealing from it. The employees know they can always get away with stealing, so they are not worried about the consequences. They earn much more than you do. They can buy a big house, a yacht and a perfect car, while you can barely pay your rent. Isn't it reasonable to start stealing like anybody else? Thomas Hobbes, a British philosopher in 17th century, thinks it is reasonable to steal from this company. Of course, stealing is a bad thing. But sometimes doing the bad thing makes sense. Well, it is reasonable to go for more money if it doesn't cause you any trouble. Hobbes thinks this is one of these situations. Sometimes, the right thing and the rational thing are different.
Oh, wisdom, finally.
This usually happens in societies where everyone can feel free to violate their contracts. Let's look at our daily lives. Why it's not reasonable to steal from your company? Well, because stealing violates the contract between you and the company. In response to this violation, the government may catch you and put you in prison. There is always a calculation going on in our brain. We weigh the advantages of our actions against their disadvantages. An action is reasonable when the advantages of doing it outweighs its disadvantages. In our daily lives, the risk of getting caught is so high that it doesn't make sense to steal from your company. Therefore, it's not reasonable to steal from your company. So, the right thing to do is also the reasonable thing to do. But what if you knew you wouldn't get caught? Hobbes says stealing and any other crime might be reasonable in such situations. Your neighbors might rob your house if they can, and you might think it makes sense to do the same thing to them. In this situation, there can't be peace. All humans would become like savage wolves in the middle of a war, ready to tear each other apart. That is why Hobbes calls this situation as the state of nature.
To me, this situation is a blood-soaked, nightmarish hellscape.
Living in the state of nature is horrifying and exhausting. Everyone would live in a constant fear of being harmed by others. So, many would seek a solution that saves them from such a horrible situation. Hobbes says the solution is to restrict everyone with contracts. Imagine you are living in the state of nature, and you are always worried that your neighbor may harm you or your properties. At some point, you might tell your neighbor, "Hey, don't hurt me." In exchange, I don't hurt you. Your neighbor probably would like your suggestion because she is also living in the constant fear of you. When both sides accept the suggestion, we say they have contracts. Everyone benefits from such contracts. Right? So, there seems to be no barrier for working out such contracts. Is there? Hobbes thinks there is. He says no one would remain committed to the contracts by themselves. Your neighbor might still harm you and your properties as soon as she gets the opportunity. And of course, you might do the same to your neighbor. Hobbes explains that a contract is credible only if someone or a group of people guarantee that everyone would remain committed to it. This person or group must be strong enough to make everyone do the right thing. Hence, for having a good society, good intentions and good contracts are not enough. Such a society also needs an authority that makes it impossible for people to turn their back at the contracts. This authority is strong and merciless, like the Leviathan, the monster of the sea in the Bible. That is why Hobbes's most famous book is titled, Leviathan. Do you agree with Hobbes? Do you think his theory makes sense? In what kind of society do you live? Is it more like the state of nature, or is it a society that upholds contracts? Leave your answers and your opinions in the comment. Feel free to subscribe for more content. This has been Ethicotech.